very good way to get your blood pressure down. And in fact, there are lots of people all over the world now that will be taking Viagra, 1 to 3 times a day to control their blood pressure.
And up to this point, I mean, you wouldn't ever give it to a woman if this was a known side effect. But were there known side effects that would have indicated any risk at all?
So every medication, regardless of whether it's experimental or approved, has side effects and carries some risk with it. The side effects that you get with Viagra, like headache, dizziness, diarrhea, abnormal vision and rash, are not the types of side effects that we're seeing for these children. So getting high blood pressure in your lungs is not something we normally associate with this. So this was an unexpected result in the Netherlands trial. We don't normally see this happening.
Right. So at this point, we are still talking about a medical mystery.
It is a little bit to a medical mystery about why this has happened, but there seems to be a definitive link between the Viagra and the high blood pressure that they found in the baby's lungs, which is ultimately what's caused their death.
Niall, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Niall Wheat is the Programme Director of Pharmacy undergraduate degrees at the University of Sydney. Firefighters in Greece say that the number of people killed in the wildfires near Athens has risen to at least 74. Nearly 200 have been injured and many are still missing. The Greek authorities are suggesting some of the fires were started deliberately. Greece's Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, said the devastation affects the whole nation.
The country is going through an unspeakable tragedy. Dozens of people have died, and that is unbearable for everyone, especially for the families that lost loved ones. Today, Greece is mourning, and in memory of those lost, we declare a period of national mourning for 3 days.
Well, at the beginning of the programme, I spoke to Irene Zarkadoula, who is International Chief Editor of Greece's Star Channel, and I asked her just how close to Athens the fires came.
Mati or Rafina, these are regions, summer resorts that are really close to Athens. There are 35-40 kilometers from Athens. This means that they are 40 to 50 minutes away from Athens. And lots of people used to have their cottages there and to spend their time or their weekends there and then go to their work every day and then go back to these regions. It's not these are not regions far away from Athens.
Gosh, and how bad is it? I mean, what's the scale of the property loss at the moment?
Mati is totally destroyed. I think Daily Mirror wrote Mati does not exist anymore, and that's true because the destruction is really huge. Everything is burned. The cars that somebody could see there, it looked like a bomb was thrown to the neighborhoods. But what is the real problem is the deaths, of course. We have more than 160 people that are injured, but hopefully some of them have returned to their families. They are not at hospital anymore. And the main issue is people that are missing, because there is not an official figure. People talk about more than 100 missing, but there is no official figure. There isn't somebody who is official and say, yes, we know that these are the 10 people are missing. Nikos, George, etc., etc. There is no an official figure. We have people who call to Greek programs and ask us, because I have been on air for 4 hours today, and asked us, do you know where my mother is? Do you know where my father is? And it's terrible.
Oh dear. Now, this fire must have swept up awfully quickly on the people of Mati, did it? So that they didn't have any warning.
The winds were really strong yesterday, and the temperatures really high, and people did not have time. There were warnings that okay, because of high temperatures and winds, everybody should be careful of fires. This happens in Greece every summer. Uh, we have fires because of high temperatures, but this fire um, was destroyed everything really quickly. Nobody expected something like that.
So, the terrible problem for everyone just now. How are the firefighters dealing with the fire now?
At the moment, the situation is much better because the winds today weren't that strong as they were yesterday. So the fire is under control at this region at Mati. So they can focus on searching for missing people than fighting the fires. There are some small fires, but most of them are under control.
Irene Zakadula from the Star Channel. Well, in China, Facebook, which is of course blocked there, is trying to set up an office. What on earth is going on? Katie Silver is our correspondent in Singapore. Hello, Katie.
Hi there.
Hi. So what's the idea? I mean, what can Facebook do if nobody can actually look at the site legally?
Well, I think this is their next attempt to try and penetrate the market. So they tried to open an office there in Beijing in 2015. But as you say, yes, they've been banned since 2009 there. So what they're opening up here, or trying to open up, is an innovation hub. So it's going to support the work, they say, of Chinese developers, innovators and startups. And they're going to spend $40 million doing this, and it's going to be in the city of Hangzhou, so which is the home of the giant there, Alibaba. But there's sort of some complications as to whether or not it may come about, because they've put in this application and it was on the Chinese government website, but it's since been taken down, which some suggest may be sort of hurdles in the path of this.
Gosh. And of course, I mean, it's not exactly all sweetness and light between China and the United States in trade at the moment.
That's right. So that's the story that we're reporting on every day here at the moment. Just about a week ago, they put on those trade tariffs in the order of $34 billion from the US to China, and they retaliated in kind. And, Donald Trump, for example, has said that he wants to increase this to the entire volume of, or he's threatened to increase the entire volume of US imports of Chinese goods, which is in the realm of $500 billion US dollars. So yes, but we are sort of seeing across the board, both ways, companies still, despite this, trying to get a foot in each other's markets. So we're seeing China Mobile, for example, continue their desire to get into the US. And here again, in terms of social media giants, we've got Facebook opening, wanting to open this. We've also got Google. They're trying to get further afoot in terms of opening up an AI lab. And even Tesla last week was they suggested that they're going to open up a factory there because of these tariffs, that they want to also increase their foothold in China.
Is there also, I mean, there's obviously a ton of self-interest here, but is there also a sense that if you're not developing in China, you're missing out on potentially the biggest innovation center in the world?
Yeah, well, and China is just such a huge market for this. So there's 500 million internet users in China. That's more than double the US. So if you miss them, you are missing just a huge market. And they also say that in terms of, the social media usage there, 300 million people use social media. So that's sort of one of the highest percentages per population of social media use. So there is the idea that if you're not there, you're not anywhere in a way. And they're going to face sort of stiff competition within China itself. Every app or site that you can think of in the US has their corresponding version in China. So it's going to be challenging ahead for them to see if they can actually pull this off.
Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
There's very, very high temperatures in the American West at the moment. If you look at the temperature map, there is so much red. But the particular drought in Arizona is causing problems for the wild horses, and a volunteer group there are doing what they can to keep the horses alive and also keep them wild. Simone Netherlands is the president of the Salt River Wild Horse Management Group. Hello, Simone.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming to talk to us. How bad is it for the horses just now?
You know, it is pretty bad. We have been monitoring and watching these horses for a very long time, almost 2 decades, and we have never seen it this bad, and we have also never had to resort to feeding wild horses before.
Ever? Why? Because they're always good at finding a little bit of tumbleweed or something that they can eat.
Absolutely. I mean, it's normal for wild horses to have a skinny season and a fat season. So, you know, they usually go down in condition a little bit. But when we completely skipped a rainy season here last year, we saw the little grasses come up. We saw the ground gruffer come up, but then we saw it wither and die. And so it hasn't been back since. And wild horses do have several sources of their food. They also eat river eelgrasses, for example, here, and they eat from mesquite trees. But since there's absolutely no ground cover left, I mean, it's literally reduced to dust. We saw, especially the older horses and the mares with the babies, really go down in condition until we had to say, you know, I mean, we just had to ask ourselves, what are we going to do? And so because we have a big volunteer force, we have over 100 volunteers, and we have enormous public support here in Arizona. You know, we simply ask the public to support us, you know, to buy 1 bale of hay to help feed wild horses. And so now we're spending over $15,000 a month strategically feeding wild horses. And that's in coordination with our state government here in Arizona.
And how do you do that strategically? Do you just kind of take trucks out there and drop it in places where you expect the horses to be?
Well, we know exactly where the horses are. Luckily, our herd, you know, our volunteers know our herd very, very well, and there are different family bands within the herd. And we have, for almost 20 years now, you know, recorded every change within the band. So we know exact birth rates, exact death rates. We know their migrating patterns. You know, when they're injured, we monitor them and sometimes rescue them. So we know where the horses are. But the reason why it has to be a strategic feeding program is because you want to keep wild horses wild. So we don't want them to walk up to people and beg for food. So what we do is we put our feed stations in strategic locations where there is no public. And then we get in, we get out, we dump the hay. And so that the horses basically think that they just got lucky and came across a patch of grass, you know. So it's just to keep them away from the public and to keep them wild. So we don't invite all of the public to just go feed wild horses because they would really get habituated too much, and they would, you know, that would cause problems.
Gosh, is it really, it's easy to tame a wild horse?